Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the top teams for the Open Great League. The Open Great League going to be back now, I think, for also several weeks. So let's take a look at the top teams for this, and we're going to see here a new top Pokemon, which is going to be Carbink. Carbink going to be new in the meta here, going to be better than the Registeel, having a very nice typing of a Rock and a Fairy, allowing it to also beat something like the Medicham. So, most likely the meta going to focus a little bit about this Pokemon. It's going to be even more like around this Pokemon. As soon as it's going to be a little bit more available, which is going to be coming up with the Go Fest, especially the worldwide Go Fest at the end of the season. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, as Carbink is one of the strongest Pokemon here. Otherwise, of course, you have the Pokemon that got buffed this season as well. Fairly strong, like the Quagsire, like the Wishcast here, but you're most likely going to see some kind of shifts towards Steel types in the Mud Boys, because it's basically the answers for the Carbink, while Carbink itself going to be most likely a little bit more common now, of course, as well, as it's now released. So, there are going to be some shifts, of course, because we have a new rank 1 Pokemon here. But we have to see how big they're going to be really here. So let's take a look down at the top teams. We have 10 teams again, as always, basically. Unless the meta is so small that there are basically no 10 teams. But yeah, we're going to take a look here first at one team that I also tried myself. With the Deoxys defense in the lead, the Dugong is a safe swap, and the Alolan Sandslash in the back. But you can also use any kind of dark type Pokemon like the Umbreon there. Umbreon plus the Deoxys defense is a very good core in general as well. Definitely don't underestimate this. Safe-Swap of Dugong is one of the Pokemon that I really like a lot here. While it doesn't really look like that great on paper here, and still a very strong Pokemon because of the Icy Wind debuff, as well as if you get some energy lead, you're going to just pressure the opponent quite a bit, especially if you can shield up the first move, then just going to debuff them the entire time. This Pokemon is really underrated, a really strong Pokemon. I hate to play against it and I love to play with it, so that's definitely a tell here. This team definitely works out really well. You have the answer for those Steel types in the lead, as well as a Fighting type answer as well with the with the Deoxys there. We don't have the Medicham in the lead here. You can also use the Medicham, but this would make you a little bit weak against Deoxys as well. So that's one thing. But yeah, let's take a look at the next game here, or like the next team here, which is going to be Kaboom. There's going to be a one about the Carbink here, which is going to be with Chestnut in the lead. Chestnut is actually a really cool Pokemon to use as well right now in the meta. I feel like this Pokemon gets a little bit more common now as well. Being able to actually, I think, beat also Carbink, but having fast Frenzy Plant as well as Superpower going to be really helpful in this meta with Mud Boys and Steel type Pokemon. So this is going to be a core breaker that I expect quite often. The Lurantis is a different option that's a little bit faster even than the Chestnut, but a little bit frailer. Doesn't have the stab for fighting type moves, but still is a very strong Pokemon. It has Leaf Blade, which is arguably better than the Frenzy Plant anyway. So very cool, similar type of Pokemon in the lead there. Safe-Swap, Drapion going to be also one of the Pokemon that going to definitely benefit, especially the Shadow variant. So if you have a Shadow Drapion, because you will be able to actually beat Carbink with Awkward Tail in the 2-shit scenario guaranteed. So this Pokemon going to be maybe a better Safe-Swap now compared to, for example, Sableye, which has literally zero chance against Carbink because Carbink resists all the charge moves of this Pokemon. So definitely it might be the way to go there. Maybe actually Shadow Sableye going to gain a little bit more of popularity as well, because you're at least going to have the Shadow Rock type move there for it, so it's going to be neutral against the Carbink, while Return plus Foul Play would be resisted. But yeah, this team looks really great as well on paper. This looks basically perfect on paper here as well. There's not a lot that the opponents will be able to do against this. It's going to be very strong. Maybe actually the Safe-Swap of Drapion is even better than the one of Frostus for this team, but really depends. Let's take a look at the next team. We're going to have a double flyer team here with the good friend Noctowl. This is actually a rank 1 in the world team from previous seasons, so definitely a strong team to use. We're going to have as an alternative, of course, our favorite Mud Boy, the Swampert, in the lead. You could also argue of going for something like the Quagsire in the lead here as well. Definitely would work out as well. I really enjoy, though, for this team, the Safe-Swap of Dubwool. This was also someone, like a viewer of mine, getting, I think, to rank 2 in the world with, I think, the Dubwool Safe-Swap and the Charizard in the back. So, very strong there as well. But yeah, the rank 1 in the world team is here on the left side with Noctowl, Safe-Swap, and Charizard in the back. But you can also use, of course, the newly buffed Fairy Wind version of Togetic, a very strong Pokemon as well for the meta. Let's take a look at the next team here, team number 4. And going to be Trevenant is still strong. Again, another team with Carbink, as I kind of wanted to focus a little bit about like Carbink. But Trevenant is actually really strong still. Here, the safe slot with the team, of course, is always the second slot, by the way, for every video. It's going to be the Medicham. Medicham safe slot going to be really strong for this team. As you're going to see already, the combination between Medicham and Trevenant in the back, both weak to a flying type Pokemon, but Medicham has access to the move Ice Punch, which is going to make it at least winning the zero shield scenario against Noctowl usually with the energy advantage, which is really good, and just in general going to be a very great safe swap for this team. And also Carbink would really work out well for this team here as well. I bet Carbink going to be strong. I think I actually made a video about exactly this team with Carbink in the lead already, and it was super strong, so definitely something that you can try out, and I think it's going to be a very strong team to use again. I really like the Trevenant. Even though it got nerfed, it's still a very strong Pokemon, and people just overlook it, and a lot of teams are really weak against Trevenant. For example, if you run here the Carbink in the lead, this team would be also very weak against Trevenant, where maybe the Bastion is the better fit for this team. The next team here going to be a double Steel line, which actually got to rank 1 in the world as well, with the Sableye in the lead. I don't know if they actually went for the Shadow variant. I went for the Shadow variant in my video at least, and we're going to have the safe swap of the Registeel and the Bastion in the back. For the Bastion in the back, there are actually quite a few different Pokemon that you can also use. But for the Registeel safe swap, there's not really a good option for that. Why is this the case? Because Registeel can actually win the zero shield scenario against the Medicham, which is like the main bread and butter for this Pokemon as a safe swap, making it so safe, as well as you're going to be able to get those debuffs onto the Pokemon, which is going to be really, really helpful for you. You can either run the Dragonite or the Sableye in the lead there. Both of them are fine. I used Sableye and the Dragonite also in the video recently as well, I think. So definitely a strong team here like this. Also hit rank 1 in the world with this kind of scenario here. So definitely a strong team to use. Very, very decent. I would not really go, I think, for the Bastion in the back if you're going to run the lead of the Dragonite. I would most likely go for one of the other two options, by the way, just because you're going to be a little bit too weak against the Galarian Stunfisk otherwise. So definitely keep this in mind, but otherwise it's going to be a very decent team. Let's take a look at the next team here. We're going to have now some grass that we're going to grow here with the Venusaur in the back, and this is honestly a trend that I'm going to see for the meta coming up, that grass type is going to be a little bit more common again, because we have like this season buffs of the Mud Boys, which is definitely going to impact this, and now we're going to also have another Pokemon that's going to be weak to grass type moves with the Carbink, so it's definitely something that's going to increase in popularity and going to let some grass type Pokemon shine again. And Venusaur itself is actually really, really cool, because Venusaur can even beat Registeel, as you can see here, because you're going to be able to resist all the moves. While they also resist your moves, you're going to have these stronger charge moves, so it's going to be one of the grass types that can actually still beat steel type Pokemon. Also going to be very decent against Medicham. I actually expected this Pokemon going to be fairly commonly seen during the World Championships, which is going to be soon as well. So definitely a Pokemon that will be very widely available and also seen. Let's take a look at the next team. We're going to have the Mud Boys, and this is the reason why I think grass type is going to be a little bit more common. We're going to have a flying type in the lead. You can also use something like a Charizard maybe in the lead if you want to, but here we are not really that spicy. We're going to have the Noctowl in the lead, and we're going to have the safe swap of the Quagsire and the Swampert in the back. Quagsire definitely has to be Shadow, Swampert can be Shadow, but I'd like also a little bit of bulk here. But still, you're going to see here already, there's not really anything that really beats this team hard here. There are some Pokemon that are a little bit softer, for example Altaria, where you can still go for Stone Edge with your Quagsire, and the lead matchup is also fairly neutral for the Noctowl. So definitely something that I'm going to expect quite often. Double Mud Boy is a very strong team. We have some alternatives here as well. You can use the Double as well as a safe swap here. We think that a Wild Charge Double going to be interesting as well in this meta, but this is going to be it for this team again. A very, very strong lineup. Our next team going to be a rank 1 team again, rank 1 with Azumarill. I think a Japanese player hit rank 1 with this team here, which is going to be Azumarill, the Shadow Gliscor as a safe swap, and the Galarian Stunfisk in the back. Going to give you quite decent coverage for the weaknesses of the Azumarill, like the Registeel, and just going to give you in general a very great coverage here, which is going to be a very decent team again for you to use. I made a video about this team as well. Azumarill is back, definitely a strong team to use, even though Azumarill is kinda forgotten about. I think this Pokemon might even get some more glory again as well with the Carbink. I think you're going to have an okayish time because Bubble going to be super effective, so definitely something interesting. For the last team, guess who's back? Back again, we're going to have the Poison Double Dark line here, which is going to be really strong. I made a video about this lineup as well. I prefer here, by the way, the Nidoqueen in the lead, especially the Shadow variant. But this was a lot of fun when I played it. Especially Gangshot Obstagoon is always a lot of fun to play as a save swap. But if you want to be a little bit safer than this, you can also run again the Dapple, which is going to be available in an event this weekend. So definitely try to get some Dapbles as well, because it's going to be one of the strongest and cheapest Pokemon to have. But yeah, again, there are going to be some Pokemon that are a little bit tricky. For example, Pelipper might be a core breaker. Altaria is also a little bit tricky to still deal with. There, most likely the Dapple would be a little bit better as a save swap. But even then, like, your lead basically can 2-shield Nini through everything, which is really important. Save your shields for your lead, or also for the Pokemon in the back. Basically, the cool thing here is as well, if the opponent has just one Pokemon left and you have like a Nidoqueen, you can still debuff them, but you can also just go full for the power punch buffs with its Scrafty, which is really cool for this team as well. So definitely a strong one again that should work out fairly well. Final team for today going to be again a team that you're going to encounter quite often, most likely. Yeah, I want to have something in at least with Lantern. I always find it weird, like difficult to build a team around Lantern that isn't completely the standard meta stuff with like Noctowl and Medicham, so that's why we have it here. This is basically how you see the like Lantern the entire time. It is a very strong team. It's going to be a very RPS line as well, so definitely be aware of that. I actually like the Trevenant in the back as well, maybe a little bit more than Medicham, but this team still should work out really well. I don't really like to play against this team, but I still had to include it here, right? But yeah, this is going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. Those videos are always quite an effort, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye bye.